Hello, everybody. This is Laura with See Italy Travel. Thank you so much for joining us today on our second Coffee with Laura. I hope that you can see the video and the people on the video screen. It's the four of us, Valentina, Christopher, and Trish. And I will give the word to Christopher, who is our moderator today, and he's going to be introducing everybody and a good part of the See Italy team, as well as a great writer and a great, just spokesperson. So thank you again for joining us. And if you are here with us, I would suggest that you stay all the way to the end of the webinar for Q&As because the people that are on here are brilliant. So go ahead, Chris, and thank you again.
Ciao a tutti. Welcome, everyone. We're really excited to have you here for today's Coffee with Laura on moving beyond giving them what they want, how to put the wow factor into your trips. So I'm going to do brief introductions and also let everyone introduce themselves since they are their own best advocates. So first off, we have our Italy expert extraordinaire, Valentina, who is originally from Rome, but now resides in San Diego. So Valentina, if you could just give a little bit of your background, how you came to work in the travel industry, the type of work that you currently do, and why you love what you do.
Absolutely. Hello everybody, good morning. I actually got in the industry a little bit by accident. I had a very different career. Many years ago, I danced with the opera in Rome for about 18 years and went to study languages. I knew that I loved to travel. When I moved to San Diego with the ballet, I knew that I wanted to be somehow doing something that will keep me connected to my roots. So I decided to get into UCSD for a master in travel and business management. And then the rest is pretty much history. So I started in 1998 and I specialized in Italy. A couple of years later, I started in 2001 to actually focus on Italy only. And it's still my passion every day to be able to share with everybody else the love for my country and the beauty and all the resources that it can offer. So that's pretty much how it happened. I never really planned it, but I'm happy that it did happen. So.
And
Great.
how Valentina and I actually met. We met at a trade show in Italy, and then we hit off right away just in the party scene. And then I knew she was from San Diego and just started to court her, right? I didn't steal you from the other company, just courted you.
He was very persistent, which I very much appreciated. So, yeah.
Great. And next up, we have Trish Gasnu, who is joining us from Simply Customized Travel. She's currently based in Alabama, but will be soon moving to sunny Naples, Florida. And she's been working in the travel industry since 1993 in various roles, both as a travel expert and more recently mentoring and coaching agents on how to expand their businesses and get the clients they want. So Trish, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story and your story into the industry as well.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Thank you, Laura, for inviting me to come. I got in the industry because honestly, I thought that it would be a great fit for me because I'm a Navy brat. My dad was in the Navy. We moved every 2 or 3 years, and I really thought I knew everything that there was to know about travel. And I enjoyed traveling, and so I went to travel school and found out that I didn't know anything. I got out of travel school and worked for a couple of different people and realized after I got out of travel school, I still didn't know anything. And every day has been a learning experience. I've been doing this for about 23 years now, and even now, it's still exciting and stuff still happens that keeps me on my toes, and I love to be able to share that with others because the travel industry has been so good to me over the years. I really want to see people not only come in to the industry but to excel in the industry and offer the best service that they can, and I want them to make a great living at it. So
Yeah.
that's me. I've worked frontline agents. I've worked corporate and leisure. I've managed an agency, run my own agency, went back inside for a while because I wanted to do something else and you know, again, getting ready to do another move. But just love the travel industry, love the agents, love the vendors.
Yeah, and if I may say, actually, you are part of one of the largest agencies in the country, Travel Experts, as an outside sales agent, and they are part of Virtuoso, which is, you
Yes.
know, I would say a larger amount of our agents belong to Virtuoso, not everybody, but it's a great consortium to belong to. So kudos to you as well for that choice.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Laura, do you want to give a little background about yourself and
Yeah,
how
I'll
you
be brief.
transitioned
Uh,
agent to operator, perhaps?
Yeah, I was a travel agent as well, and I was an outside sales agent for a Virtuoso agency in San Diego. Loved it, but then I lost my passion because I, you know, started to add on with kids and I couldn't travel as much. And, you know, I just decided to specialize in Italy. So about 7 years ago, I started my journey to get closer and closer to Italy, and that's why I met Valentina, starting to go to trade shows. And then I fully specialized in Italy 5 years ago. Actually, this is the fifth official year for See Italy that started like Laura Masuni Travel because that's what my agency used to be before. We really focused on the tour operator side. So a lot of people started to ask me, are you a travel agency? Are you a tour operator? And this is why a couple of years ago we decided to change Laura Masoni Travel to See Italy Travel. Then we bought the domain seeitaly.com. So we're getting closer and closer to really define our message and what we sell. And our agents, thanks to Valentina, to the support that we have in Italy with our office, to Chris and to other part-time employees, have really expanded to become kind of like what Trish was saying, a company that is making money, that loves to help travel agents shine and really make money at what they do. So that's my little introduction, but I think probably we should dive into the topic of today, which is called
Today we were talking about moving beyond giving them what they want, putting the wow into your trip. So what are some of the big questions that we'll be covering today, and what will you be learning today by participating with us? So by the end of this webinar and this chat, and this is going to be a natural conversation, so it's a back and forth amongst our experts, you will understand the difference between giving them what they want, so what your clients say they want, and positioning yourself as a wow-worthy agent, and how sometimes these things go hand in hand, and sometimes they're actually giving them just what they say they want isn't always to your best benefit and not always to the best benefit of your travelers. So we're going to be talking about what the job of a travel agent is, what clients think they want, how you can offer a menu of options and allow clients to decide, and what are the best ways to share your expertise and to have your clients recognize and value your expertise, to treat you like the expert you are, or the consultant that you are. So first off, I'm going to start with a question to Laura, and you, Trish and Valentina, feel free to pipe in if you have thoughts and anecdotes that you want to share similar to this. So a couple weeks ago, Laura, you wrote an article for our newsletters about how agents often feel compelled to just give clients what they want, to listen to what the client says and execute that. Why, in your experience, is that only part of the job of a travel agent?
Well, travel agents should definitely focus, I mean, interview their clients and really focus on what the client wants. But after all, we travel consultants, that's why we're consultants, we are there to give them suggestions exactly on what we think they need. And if you're not an expert on, let's say, Italy as an example, you can always team up with a company. Let's say you decide to work with See Italy, you can team up with See Italy and do a three-way call where you feel confident in the suggestions that you give. And when we introduce ourselves, let's say in a three-way call, we never try to shine. We definitely just say that we are the representative in Italy, and because we are a B2B and we only sell to travel agents, you don't have to worry about bypassing, you know, you and going directly with your clients. But when we give advice to the traveler, we tend to really say, you know, it's great that you want to do this, and maybe they want to do this because they've been bombarded by friends, the media, the online searches, and think that they like something, but maybe by who they are and what they want, it's, you know, and really what their hobbies are, I should say, it's not the ideal fit for them. So that's when we stir them to really what they need, and still maybe give them, you know, something of what they want, but not to the extent. So every case is different. Yeah.
So, Valentina, sort of jumping off that a little bit, when an agent contacts you and says, you know, this is generally what my clients want. They want to go to Pisa, they want to see the Uffizi in Florence, and they mentioned this hotel specifically, let's say Florence or Rome. What are some other questions that you ask the agent to get a better sense of what the client's interests are like, what sorts of options you could offer that maybe they hadn't even thought of? What is your process when you have an initial request so that you can really sort of cater the trip both to what they want and to wowing them with something that you know about that they have no idea existed?
I usually really try, which I think it's really my main job, to understand who the client really is. Because often if I just focus on the list of places or things that they might think they want to do, I feel that it's going to be very limiting to the possibilities of actually showing them something else. So I really try to focus on who the clients are as a person. So I might ask, you know, an agent what kind of travel experience they had with these clients. Have they ever booked with that agent before? If so, what kind of trips have they taken, and what do they like to do in their spare time? You know, are they active people, not active people? Do they like simple things? Do they like more fancy? I really try to understand the behind the scene besides the list of places and things that can be quite simple, especially for people going the first time in Italy. If I just focus on the list of places and items and activities, I would probably do the same trip for hundreds and hundreds of clients every year. But it just happens that most likely all of the trips that we do are just different from one person to another. I also try to understand where they got certain information, which I think is very important because at times I understand that there is a lot of misleading information on travel to places in general and in Italy in particular. So if they have very specific, where an agent might say, oh, this client wants to stay at this particular hotel, I would ask blindly why and where did they find that information. Because it can be friends, it can be a book that they read, it can be something that they've seen, and not necessarily that brings to the right choice. One example that comes to mind, and comes to mind all the time because it's my city and I know it well, everybody thinks that the train station in Rome, it's a great location to be. You're central, it's public transportation. It's a horrible neighborhood. I know it for a fact. It got better over the years, especially on one side of the train station, but would I ever go there as a Roman native at night? Nope. Yeah. Did I ever walk with my friends there? So those are questions that I really try to focus to kind of say, okay, where did you get that information? Why? Is there a reason behind it? And then try to steer them in the right direction. Then I try to come up with a proposal that is as close as possible between what I think it would be the best choices and what they told me. And that's really where the process starts for me to actually work then together with the agent and the clients to say, okay, we have a skeleton, where do we go from here? And at times we don't have to change anything. At times we go back and forth a few times, but that's usually how I work on the process.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point, if I can say something about that, to understand that when an agent works with a tour operator, the trip, it's like a living component in the sense that if you just stop from the quote that you received and you don't dig deep, it's kind of like if you just look online at different sites, but you don't understand why. So if you really think you want to work with a tour operator that helps the travel agent shine, but helps the client have the best time of all, then go back and forth and modify and really act like if let's say Valentina is the interior designer and you just tell her, I don't like this color, I don't like this couch, you know, how can we better fit it for my client? Because again, if you just stop there and go like, well, she didn't understand what I was trying to tell you, then it defeats the purpose of you having an empty canvas and try to make the best painting of all. Yeah. But that's all I wanted to say.
Very fair point. Trish, so we're talking from our perspective as the tour operator who's the go-between between the clients and the agent. And I was wondering if you could maybe, as someone who deals more directly with individual travelers, could talk about what your initial process is in getting to know agents. When we were speaking on the phone the other day, you were talking about how it's so important to build those relationships and really understand who people are as people before we begin to sort of offer them options or suggestions. So how do you go about doing that when you have an initial contact with someone?
Well, I always start out with an interview process to see whether or not I'm going to be a good fit for the client, and what the client wants is going to be fitting with what I've decided is going to be my niche. And I feel very strongly that the people that I align myself with, the companies, the clients, the products, you know, things like that, reflect on me, and they reflect on you. That's just, you know, whether you agree with me or not, that's my truth on that. So I'm very careful about that. I only want to offer things that I'm going to personally do, that I'm going to recommend that my mom do, my sister do, or my daughter do. And I've done this through my 23 years of working in the travel industry. Most people get on board with that and really like that. But occasionally, when I tell them that and they say yes, and then they want something that I'm not going to give them, because I'm just not going to be associated with it, they don't like it quite as much. But really, from an integrity standpoint, I personally feel like I can't do less than that. So that's the way that I come across in my business. I try to be very authentic. So I have this conversation with the client. I set aside, I tell them it's going to be 30 minutes, but typically it's 45 minutes, sometimes an hour if we're really getting along well. And I just find out their personalities and what they like and what they don't like. I find out the reason that they're going on this trip, because I could talk with each one of the three of you, and you could all want the same basic components. You might all want that trip, you know the one I'm going to say, Rome, Florence, and Venice, right? But each one of your trips could be so totally different, because you could be going for a totally different reason. One of you could be going for family heritage. Another one could be going because you have a love of cooking and you want to focus on a culinary aspect. And then maybe another one is celebrating a big birthday and wants to just so every trip could be so different and unique, using the same things. That's one thing that I love about what I do, is that I customize. So I just talk to the clients. I find out, what do you like? What don't you like? And I was telling Chris, my very favorite questions are, questions, I like to reverse engineer. So I ask them, when you get back from your trip, after we've talked for a half an hour or so, I say, when you get home from your trip and you and your mate are sitting there with your best friends and you've just had a wonderful meal and you go plop on the couch together and you take a deep breath and sigh, and your friend says, so, how was it? What do you want to be able to say to your best friend? Do you want to say, oh my gosh, it was so relaxing, we had such a romantic time, or oh my gosh, it was great, we hit the ground running, we saw everything we wanted to do, we did this kind of thing? And you'd be surprised, a lot of people at first think that the questions I have don't necessarily relate to the trip, and maybe not the mechanical portion of the trip, it doesn't, but it does really speak to the experience. And that's what we all want to do, is we want to build out a framework of, yes, you're going to have a flight, yes, you're going to have a hotel, yes, you're going to have that, but we're going to put in the components that are going to make it a memorable, customized experience just for the client. And people don't have to take that same trip to Rome, Florence, and Venice that their mom took and their dad took and their uncle took, and it could be their perfect trip specialized just for them. And that's what I want people to realize. The other thing I want people to realize, agents especially, is I believe in relationships, not just with my clients, but also with my vendors and booking agents. And so I like to think that I am friends with Valentina and with Laura, and I'm making a relationship with Chris, and we're cutting up and acting silly together. But because we all have a common goal. Our common goal is that our mutual client is going to experience Italy, in this case, in an authentic way, in a style that they want, within a budget that they're comfortable with. We're not looking to gouge anybody, but we also don't want to shortchange them and not offer them the experience that they're expecting, because it might be $300 more than what they told us, that their budget was. I really think that that is our goal, is to offer our clients an exceptional trip that they really can't get anywhere else. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Could we,
I find the personal relationship with vendors in general one of, I think, the main components of working with a company, let's say, like See Italy for Italy. I was lucky enough during the last trip to actually, meet some of the people again, or meet some for the first time, and experience, a cooking class at our chef home in Tuscany. And I was enthusiastic, like I had never seen Italy before. And it was such a deeper type of experience than what I expected, because all of a sudden there is that relationship with that person, and all of a sudden there is that connection that brings the whole experience to a completely different level. So the personal relationships with vendors, I strongly believe that's a huge component for what we do.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's difficult to convey it to clients in the booking process, or in putting together a proposal. And sometimes I feel that they really have to trust us, where I said, just do it, because you're not going to regret it. And I don't know how better to explain it, but I know that they wouldn't regret it if they make that choice.
And I honestly think, as from the agent side, I try to do the same thing with my clients, but that's why I can't know everything about a destination, and that's why I rely on you guys to, be my experts. I don't have to know everything. I have to know the right people to go to ask. So if Laura or Valentina in the past have told me, Trish, your clients really don't want to do that, this is going to be better for them, I can go to my client with 100% confidence that what I'm getting ready to tell them is the truth. That because of our relationship, I trust you, that you're not going to lead me astray because you think it's going to be an extra $15 or $100 or whatever. That your goal is the same as mine, to give my clients an exceptional trip. And if you tell me they really are not going to be happy if they do this, they really should do this instead, I will 100% go back to my client and tell them what you've told me, and explain to them why, and then explain to them that because of the relationship that I have with the company, that I trust the advice, and that in my opinion, we should follow it. If they choose not to, then that's okay, and we're all going to get behind them and support their decision. And hopefully it doesn't go wonky, but if it does, we're there and we try to help them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, jumping off that, Laura and Valentina, maybe you could give us like a concrete example or an anecdote of a time when an agent said a client wanted something, and then based on your expertise and your awareness of the destination or the hotels or the types of tours, you said, I just don't think that's going to give them the experience they need. That's something that we know that place, we know that provider, and there's something about this that's a little bit off, and I think it's going to throw a wrench in the positive experience they're going to have. This could be in your experience as agents or now planning trips and doing research.
Well, we've had several incidents in the past, and Valentina has had some as well. I think she can chime along here. But of people that decided to, let's say, book their own villa, or they booked their own excursion and then the people didn't show up. I mean, we've had, I think it was last year or this year, somebody that booked a hotel in Sorrento, and then they called in and said, this is horrible. It's so far away. I don't want to be here. Can you do anything about it? Well, we tried. We tried to support them. We tried to change hotel. And at the end, we couldn't, just because the place was, sold out. The Amalfi Coast is very hard to get into. It gets sold out pretty quickly. But at the end of our conversation, they said, you know what, we'll never book anything by ourselves anymore. And it's not because they cannot do, and it's not because, people cannot stay here and there. I mean, sometimes I go, let's say, to Atlanta, to New York, I book my own hotel and I wing it. But on important trips, we need to try to make them understand that if they would book everything through the travel agent or through the provider, might cost a little bit more or might just be not really what they think they want. But at the end, if something happens, the provider has an office locally, hopefully, that can help them, and support them and go from there. I did a honeymoon trip, for example, I would say 3 months ago, for a young couple, and they booked their shells through Costco, okay? And I actually asked them to send me the itinerary to see how we would compare for fun. They did the airfare, they did the transfers, and they did the hotels through Costco. But then we did the components in between the cities. And they came back and they said, oh my gosh, this was the best. This, was so out of, the most common tours that I've seen out there. And they're young people, they've gone online. So because they were young, we put, let's say, kayak in Venice. We did bicycle tour. We did a special cooking class that was not boring. I mean, I have to tell you that I cook every single night, and my least favorite thing to do when I travel to Italy is to do a cooking class. But when I took one with one of our chefs, they loved it. So the bottom line is that, don't stop in doing just the bare minimum, or you could distinguish yourself from what they have and book the rest, as an example. Or even, they think that they can do their own restaurant reservations because they listen to maybe, what Yelp says, right? We've had, I think it's actually TripAdvisor in Florence that has one of the top restaurants around the Duomo. And that restaurant is famous just because they give quick food and the line of people is all foreigner. When it's like that, it makes you wonder if it's really authentic, if they just go there because it's quick and it's just a hype. So when you, for example, go with a private, I don't know what happened. I apologize. I thought it was about to kick me out. Anyways, when they book a tour with a private guide of ours, the private guide then will give them a suggestions on where they can go and eat for, a special time. And it could be at a local trattoria, as an example. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel
still,
yeah, there are quite a few examples on my daily work where I feel that not necessarily what clients ask and consequently agent ask might be something that I would suggest. There are obviously many examples, and it starts from the simplest service, the hop on hop off bus. I'm not going to do it. It's not the way I approach the trip in the same way that I would, and that's something that Trisha would say, for my own trip. I picture myself actually going and knowing, okay, would I be happy with that experience? No. Am I going to sell it? No. If they want to do it, they're more than welcome to do it. I don't personally feel that it's fair for me to say, oh yeah, I'm going to book it for you because it's great, when I know that it's not. And it goes also to higher levels of service. Classifications of hotels in Italy, I think it's really peculiar, where 5 stars, 4 stars, do they mean necessarily a lot? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I've seen horrible 5 stars and I've seen great 3 stars hotels. So if somebody comes to me and say, oh, we want that particular 5 star because it's famous, it has a name, and it has a location, but I know for a fact that they're not getting the value or the quality of what they would expect in a 5-star hotel, I'm pretty honest and say this is why I wouldn't suggest that particular property. There is one hotel that I have in mind in particular in my city, and there is one that I have in mind for Venice that I think they are super famous. They're historical hotels. They've been there for hundreds of years. I've seen the rooms and they are closets. So do I feel comfortable when a client says, oh no, but we want that hotel because it's famous and that's the name? I'm going to give them the information and say, this is what I would do. I don't think that it is what you expect it to be. There are better choices out there. These are the other options. Then, of course, if a client still insists, yes, but I feel the responsibility to give them as much information and as much correct information as I can. So that would be the point where I said, okay, this is really from the bottom of my heart, my opinion as somebody that has been there, has seen those rooms, has seen that property, or has used that particular service. Would I do it for myself if it was my trip? Not necessarily. Ultimately, it's still the client's choice, but I still feel the responsibility to give them as many details as I can.
Right.
Trish, maybe you could pipe in a little bit here. We had spoken when we were talking on the phone this week about how sometimes you realize that the request or the experience the client is asking for is not something that you feel like you can provide or you would feel comfortable providing. So how do you go about saying no to a client? As a business person, it can feel counterintuitive and almost wrong to say no to a potential sale because you're thinking, okay, this person wants to book with me, why would I say no to them? At the same time, you're trying to create a niche for yourself and an image of the types of services that you provide and a coherence to that. So what is your thought process about that and how do you communicate that to a client?
Well, first of all, thank you, Chris, because that one is a toughie. It put me on the spot here. This is really a tough one because honestly, we are walking a line between a business person who is here to service our client and to make money. And if somebody's walking up to you with a fistful of money and says, I want to book this trip, it actually can be very difficult for you to look them in the eye and say to them while they're waving their money, I am so honored that you have come to me and want me to book this. However, what you're asking me for, the Rome, Florence, Venice trip in 2-star hotels on a hop-on, hop-off bus with traveling second class on the train and, staying in, a hostel or, that's not in my wheelhouse. It's not my expertise. That's not something I can help you with. That's the same conversation I have with the person that comes up to me with the handful of cash and says, I've heard great things about you. I want you to book my 3-night Carnival cruise or my 7-night Carnival cruise or something like that. Basically, you have to rewind yourself and get way back before that even becomes an issue, and you have to decide, what am I going to specialize in? How am I going to best help people? You know, what is my unique brilliance? And you really have to work on yourself first. You have to be okay having people think that you're nuts for saying no to business. And I can speak from this from experience, because when I first started working in wanting to do more upscale luxury, I was having to say no to a lot of very cheap mass market. And it might be people wanting me to book a cruise, and I was going to make $42 commission. And I would say no to them. And people would say, well, you're not really busy right now, Trish. You probably should go ahead and take that. And I'd say, you know what? No, I can't, because I'm working for this. This is my goal. This is the way I can best help and contribute. Any brand new agent that's coming into the industry can book that. Not anybody can book what I'm booking. This takes some skill. It takes connection. It takes experience and know-how. That's what I have. Anybody else can do that. And I've decided that in advance. So when somebody comes and is waiving that money, again, your first thing is you look at their handful of money and you go, money, yeah, I can. But I have a business coach, and she said something at our last meeting that was like spectacular, mind-blowing. She said, I have a goal. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. If I look down and I see a $1 bill laying on the ground, I'm going to step over that $1 bill to get to the $100 bill. That's what we are doing, is we're keeping our eyes focused on the prize and saying no to business that doesn't serve us, so that we can go and service the clients that we need to. And by doing that, we're helping the client, we're helping our families, we're helping our business, and we're growing as agents into our potential, and that's what we really want to do. So again, it starts with you. It starts with you making the decision up front that I am going to say no to business that doesn't serve me. I'm not going to do it in an ugly way. I'm going to be honored that they've asked me. I'm going to offer them a solution. I am so honored that you offered, want me to do that, Mr. Jones. It's not in my wheelhouse, but I will tell you what, if it were me, and then this is where I think, if it were me, and I had this, would somebody be happy to get this piece of business? If the answer is yes, then I will refer them to another agent, because again, it's all about relationship. I'll refer it to an agent that I know that does that and can do a good job and will be happy to have the business. If it's a piece of business that I think nobody would be happy to have, and you know the ones I'm talking about, then I will say to Mr. Jones, if it were me and I wanted to do that, I would go to this website, or I would go and do that, or I would check this out, and that's the way I would do it if I was going to do this, because I want people to think of me when they are asking about travel. I think that that's great, and just because I can't or don't want to help them and am not going to help them physically book something, I still want to offer my assistance and my help in my authentic Trish, crazy, fun, loving, sweet self. I want to be gracious and offer them some sort of assistance. That's why they came to me. And a lot of people that I've done that to, and I've said I don't specialize in the Caribbean, but I've got 3 great agents that I know you're going to love. I'll give you their information. Choose the one that you want. I would be happy to send my mom, my sister, my daughter to one of these people to take care of their trip. People love that. They love that you tell them, I'm not good at that. You don't want me to do it. They love that when you do it.
Yeah, it's all about being honest about it. Definitely.
I think when it comes to us, and I had a very different experience in the past, working with agents made the process for me very different because we really have to rely on agents coming back to us over and over and over again. And it happens that we have the same agents maybe asking me for 5 different requests and maybe only booking 3. And it was a process for me also to learn how to be honest and say, you know, when we start focusing on so much on the price point and they come back and say, oh, can we take this out? Can we take that out? Can we take this out? Can we? Then it doesn't become anymore what I'm trying to give them, which is the overall experience. So there is a point where I learn how to step back and say, you know, it doesn't feel like we are a right fit for each other. So it is a process to, you know, understand, but also to be able to take a step back and say, okay, I'd rather let this go, and I'm going to be honest about the reason why I think it's a good idea to let it go. And I feel that sometimes the agents are still a little bit scared about doing that because you don't want to offend your clients, but I would rather not take a client that have an unhappy client at the end of the trip.
I totally agree with her. And the thing that I've found in my life is that when I give something up graciously, I get something better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's replaced with something that is a better fit for me, and that I can help them better, or just I know that Valentina and I have worked together off and on for a bit, and there's been a couple of times that we've decided that the trip just couldn't be a go, that it wasn't what, you know, and I appreciate that when she says there's just not a way for us to do that. I trust that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Trish, sorry, Laura, continue.
No. That's fine. I can chime in anytime. Go ahead.
So we were talking, just now about figuring out, are you a good fit? Is your expertise a good match for what the client is desiring and the type of trip they have in mind? Trish, when we were speaking, you talked a lot about how it was a significant change in your business when you started requesting a service fee from potential clients. And service fee was not something that you were crediting towards their travel, but was, if you want to work with me and you want to have access to the connections that I have and the knowledge I have and the sort of boutique approach that I'm offering and the relationships that I have created and cultivated over the years, this is something that I request of clients. How has that impacted your business? How has that allowed you to, expend your energies differently than you were before that? And how do you think that's positively impacted your business?
Well, I will tell you, this is a shameless plug. If you go on to the website and look and Google my name, and I did an article, I can't remember the name of it now. Laura just popped away. The rest of us are on, though, or are we gone?
Yeah, we're still going. So.
Okay. Well, we'll still go. She'll come back.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay. Let's see. So I had done an article with, I believe it was Travel Pulse, about this very issue about service fees, and I've spoken quite frequently about the issue. I'm very passionate about it. I'm going to try to keep myself under control here. I really believe that there are 2 transactions that go on when we speak with our customers. There's the transaction between me and my customer where I'm spending my time, having my different connections, my relationships, my expertise, and my great travel ideas and design. That's one relationship. And then there's another relationship with my vendor that I find the ideal client. I sift them, find the person that's the right fit for them, and then we plug them in. So two different important transactions going on here. So I charge a service fee, a professional planning fee up front for the client. I have my 30 to 40 minute, maybe an hour interview, and if they're a great fit, then I go into my explanation of what I will do for them and what I expect from them in return, and then I tell them what my service fee is going to be. I charge $250 per person for a 7 to 14 night FIT, and then it goes up from there. There's additional charges if they're going to be doing frequent flyer air or, hi Laura, if they're going to be doing, anyway, so there's additional fees if they're doing airfare and things like that on top of that. And then, you know, I work with the vendor that works out best for the client. It added 26% to my bottom line. That's profit, that's cash flow coming in the door because they pay it before I do anything for them other than have the 30-minute to, you know, 45-minute to an hour conversation. Before we go any further, I collect that service fee. And then once I do that, I will start working on the itinerary. I'll figure out, you know, all the wonderful things. I'll present it to them. Then if at that point they say to me, Trish, we found it online for $50 a person cheaper, we're going to do that, I will say, gosh, you know, I understand. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you have a lovely trip. Let me know if I can do anything to help you. And yeah, it's sad that I'm not getting the second part of that, but it doesn't hurt me the way that it used to when I would spend so much time putting together basically my baby. You know, I put together this wonderful trip for you, isn't it beautiful? And they've taken it and done something with it. They used to crush my spirit. Now I don't like it when they leave and do that, but it's not as painful. I'm like, that's fine. They paid me for my time and my expertise. And it has happened a time or two since I've started charging service fees. But since I have started charging, then I have cash flow to go to do educational seminars, upgrade technology. You know, if we're booking something a year in advance and the commission doesn't come in until after they travel, or a crazy cruise that we book a year and a half in advance, we've done all of this work right now, but we're not getting compensation from the vendor until down there. I could be out of business. I mean, if I'm not in business, I cannot help people. Bottom line, business people are in business to make money. And it's a mindset thing. You've just got to get over the fear of not wanting to charge, or the fear of, well, I'm already making a commission, I don't need to. It's just, it really is a best practice. If you look at the agents out there that are the top selling agents in the industry nowadays, you will find that, I would say, close to 100%. I'm not even going to say 99.9. I mean, close to 100% of them are charging service fees, and they're not going toward the deposit, I mean, toward the trip. You have to be really careful if you're taking a plan to go deposit. They'll call it a fee, but it's not. It's a deposit. Anytime you take money and hold it, then it's going to go towards something else. That's a deposit. And some of your vendors, if you're using a third-party insurance, look at the moment that you take a deposit as the day the clock starts ticking for the pre-existing condition waiver coverage. And you have to be careful. I have heard that insurance companies have come back and said, you took this plan to go deposit 3 months before they actually put the first deposit down on the trip. We're going back to that date. They canceled for a non-covered reason, and the clients lost the money. So first of all, do your client a favor and don't do that to them. And if you're going to go through, a lot of agents feel angst at asking for money, asking for a service fee, asking for the close of the sale. If you're going to put yourself through that, instead of saying, I'm doing this fee and you have to pay it up front, but don't worry, because if you go on the trip, it's going to go towards the, don't do that. Just be professional. Say, I charge a professional consulting fee to manage your trip. It is XYZ number of dollars. And if they say to you, does that go towards my trip? You say, no, that's for the service that I'm providing you and for doing these things here. And I was telling Chris, I don't like to role play. It makes me uncomfortable, but honestly, I find that it's very, very effective because I would much rather be role playing and feel uncomfortable with a friend or colleague than to be in that position with a client.
Yeah, and actually, I just happened, no, it's great what you're saying because, and we were talking about it even a few weeks ago, but what you get paid is on the service fees for the time you're spending to research. Whatever commission you get from the vendor is for the additional time that you have to service the reservation, that you have to remind yourself of collecting the final payment, you know, whatever gifts that you might send your client. But I just had a cancellation from a travel agent. And after deposit, she canceled. Our deposit is non-refundable. She didn't get anything. And she said, but I'm not making any commission. And I did share with her, you know, next time I would suggest that you charge a service fee because the time, again, that you spent to work with us initially would have covered for that time. She is not going to get anything at the end.
That's yeah, I was also going to say, I'm just going to jump in and interrupt you, is that if, you know, you're a small boutique agency like me and somebody comes to you and says, I want you to plan this wonderful trip, and I don't charge them a service fee, and somebody else comes up and says, I want you to plan this big, wonderful, beautiful trip for me, then I've got to decide which one I'm going to work on. And so if both of them call me at the same time and I quote them both the same fee and they both want to pay it, that's great. I'll work on it. But if one of them doesn't want to pay it and then comes up with, well, I'm working with 4 other agents trying to get this trip and I'm trying to, you know what? They've done me a huge favor when they've said no because I don't have to waste my time and then I can take another piece of business that's going to come in. So it's a great qualifier. I mean, it's a great qualifier. You will have people that say no, but they're doing you a huge favor if they say no.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I mean, just to give you an example, we have a friend, tour operator of ours that sells France. She doesn't work B2B. She works B2C and sometimes B2B. But she charges service fees and puts people on her calendar because she wants to give the best service. When she's saturated and doesn't have any more space on her calendar for a new client, she tells her clients, I would be happy to work with you, but I need to put you on a wait list for this date. Or I cannot service you this year because I want to give you the best service and I don't have any more space. Even if it's something that you don't think you can do, just focusing, in my opinion, on somebody that does this, even for us, we could never do that, in my opinion, just gives you a different perspective of how valuable agents are or how valuable people are when, you know, they need to give the best service. So, yeah.
It's a question of, I think, also travelers understanding that what you're bringing to them in terms of your expertise is of value to them, that it's not just, you know, you're not Mother Teresa on the phone giving out travel advice. You know, you are a business person and you've spent years and years gaining this expertise and this knowledge and these relationships. And to say that that comes with a cost is not to damage your clients. It's not to be negative towards them in any way, but to sort of see yourself as someone who deserves to be working with people who want to work with you and want to see value in you and do value your time and your energies.
Yeah, and it seems always very interesting to me that there are other professional categories out there, lawyers, or just to name one, where we do expect to pay a consulting fee if we sit on a lawyer chair even for 2 minutes. But when we are on this side, somehow I feel that we cut ourselves short, and we, as travel consultant or travel agent, that sometimes we kind of feel like, oh, I don't have the same level of expertise that a lawyer might have, so I don't feel right to actually put a value on my time. And I think we do have that right to, you know, say, no, we are the expert in this field. Like a lawyer can be the expert when it comes to legal matters. So I think it's really understanding that there is a value in what we do and our time, and that it's guarantees the fact if somebody is really serious about working with you and really recognize the value, but you have to recognize the value yourself in the first place to be able to say, I feel comfortable in asking because I know how good I am or what I do. I know my expertise. I know what I will do for this client. So I'm confident about saying, this is why I'm asking you this money.
Yes.
Right. So it's almost 10 o'clock. I just want to keep time so that we know how far we can go. And then we can open, by the way, the lines to questions if anybody has any. Okay, but go ahead, Chris. And I apologize for earlier. My internet went out completely for some odd reason.
No worries. Whenever we do these things, there's always some sort of technical hiccup, you know, with people in different locations. It's somewhat inevitable. But you're back, so we're glad to have you. So why don't we sort of wrap up a little bit the conversation. We've had sort of ins and outs and different ways of approaching this, but to bring it back to the topic at hand, sort of adding the wow to your trip, if we could go around maybe and everyone could just say, when you think about a wow factor in terms of creating a trip and creating an experience for clients, how do you define that? What does that look like in your head?
Valentina, you want to go first?
Yes. I think the wow factor is really to give the client something that they never expected. Meaning, even when it's the same idea that they started with, we want to see this or we want to do that, being able to provide one experience or one way to do that particular activity that really goes and exceeds their expectations. And I personally have that feeling when I experience it myself. I happened to travel throughout Tuscany for a couple of days with one of our amazing driver guides, and I was happy with the idea of having a wine tour in Chianti. I was perfectly happy with it. But when she physically knocked on the door of the private Antinori residence and said, I have a friend of mine here, I want her to see your place, and the gate of this castle opened for us, I was like, this is crazy. I took a million pictures. I looked like a crazy person for about 15 minutes because I couldn't believe where we were, how beautiful it was, the fact that it was just us. It was an incredible experience that I wasn't thinking that I would have, and I would have been probably happy if I didn't, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that that was even a possibility. So I want my clients to have the same type of emotions that I had that day. I want them to be able to say, you know, yes, I had all these expectations and they were definitely met, but that was this thing that made me go, took my breath away. And it can be, you know, a dinner in a private house. It can be something like the experience that I had with this particular driver guide, or you know, giving them a dinner in an amazing restaurant with an amazing view. Anything that can really just take their breath away and say, okay, this exceeded my expectations. And I really I think that day became a lot more concrete for me to kind of say, okay, that exact feeling, that's what I want to give my clients. That feeling of, oh my God, this is incredible. That's really what I strive for. And I think we have the right people to do that. So I'm confident about that. So it makes my work easier.
That's awesome. How about you, Trish?
For me, I like when the client is able to come back to me and say, you took care of everything, because like Valentina says, I always, when I went to travel school, my teacher told me, if you pretend like you're planning the trip for yourself and your question is always, what then? You've got the flights, what then? If you do that, then you're so much less likely to miss something. So I love it when I go through everything and get everything situated, and then the client comes back to me and says, oh my gosh, you thought of everything. I would have never have thought that we needed this component. And it might be something just small, but it made the difference to their trip in a way that they didn't even realize that they wanted or needed that or would appreciate it, but I just put it in because what then? That's what I would want. And it makes a huge difference to the client. I think that the way that we authentically care about their vacations and their trip and their time, I think that when I hear comments like that, like she thought of things I never thought of, she took care of things in advance, or we had a problem and she took care of it. We would not have known what to do without her. That's what I like. That's what I strive for. Is I want to be. Oh, I like to be the hero. I like to be the hero when you aren't expecting anything, and I've done something for them. But also when things don't go as planned, like sometimes they do, I want to be the hero and fix it for them.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
For me, is giving each person a different experience. Kind of like having a guide, realizing that each person that he's serving has a different need, and for each one of them to have a different experience. They might go through the Vatican all, watching the same thing, but each one of them has a different feeling to it. So I love when they come back and they say, for me, this was the best. For me was this. But everybody had a great time. And I love also when we send a survey, let's say at the end of a client's trip, to receive the feedback from the travel agent that says, you made me look like a star. Or this was the easiest trip, the most well organized, everything was clockwork, and my clients gave me the credit, the travel agent the credit. But I want you to know how thankful I am for your company. And that's our goal, is for everybody to really realize that what they've done, it was the most unexpected and most beautiful thing ever. It really is that. It gives me joy. It really does. And also, when something doesn't go right behind the scenes, for the client to come back and go, we had a great time. And, for the travel agent to go like, well, you didn't know this, and that. They don't need to know. They had a great time, right? So this is what it is for me. It's just the orchestrating part of everything that is awesome. So.
And I think for me, to jump off what Valentina was saying, it's a question of, if the client has an expectation here, you obviously want to meet that. But even when their expectations are rather broad, so say they say, we're in the Amalfi Coast, we would love to do a cooking class. There's plenty of cooking classes in the Amalfi Coast. And clients often have an idea, oh, we're just going to go Sorrento somewhere, there'll be a storefront, we'll have a cooking class, it will be fun. But we have people we work with there where you go to someone's home, you pick the eggplants out of the garden, you see where they grow the tomatoes, and they take you into the family garden, and you're at a house that's on a cliff with an entire view of the Amalfi Coast before you, and that's where you eat dinner. And so they didn't even maybe notice that part of the tour description, and they arrive there, and they're not just having dinner, they're not just getting their hands flowery, they're having a whole experience that is just something that they couldn't probably have even conceptualized, that wasn't even possibly in their dream bubbles of ideas before they went there, and they come back and they're just wowed. They say, you know, that was so much more and so much beyond what I even thought was possible, what was doable. And that's really what excites us when clients come back and have that. At this point, I think we also wanted to open it up to Q&A from the audience. Laura, I don't know if you can unmute people, if there's voice questions, or people can type questions into the chat box so that we can answer any questions.
Yeah, I will unmute everybody. So if you have noise in the background, you know why. But just feel free to start asking questions, and if you want to mute yourself because you don't want to talk, then you can use your telephone, you can use the mute button on the computer. But I have unmuted everybody. I hope that you have questions for Trish, Valentina, Christopher, me, so feel free to ask. We're here. This is your opportunity. I can see Mary Jo on the line, Tammy.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Tammy.
Hi.
I don't know if we could answer, you know, logistical questions about how we usually work, or maybe you could ask Trish what it is that she presents before she charges a service fee. Really interrupt. I mean, I think Trish has a great strategy that she uses, and she's not afraid of people saying no. Just remember one thing, the saying that one door is shut, another one it opens. But if you don't shut it, nothing else will open. So that's my tip for today. And let me see if there is any questions in the chat box. Don't be shy. Would love to hear your voice, even to just say hi. If you have questions about the program, this is also the time to ask. This is a recorded webinar, so you can listen to it over and over. I know that Lori will record another marketing webinar as well. My suggestion, just because I like Trish, are in a coaching program, is that if you want to grow, if you want to learn, to go through every single class, even if you don't look at it, you know, just listen to it multiple times. I can guarantee you that that's the only way of really growing and learning. And then we'll let Valentina go when you know, if there is no questions. I think that's it. I think if there are no questions, there might be.
If any occur to you, feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to get back to you and let you know.
Actually, somebody did type in some questions. So Jenny Lynn is asking Trish, don't you feel that your quality of clients has improved since you have started charging a fee?
I absolutely feel that the quality of my clients has improved since I started charging a fee, because I am a great fan of reverse engineering. I mentioned that before. I thought, what kind of client do I want, and at what price point would they not flinch? And so, you know, not everybody is going to pay my service fee, and that's okay. I don't want everybody as my client. Everybody is not my client. But since I have started charging my fee, I've gotten more of my ideal client, because once I've got one, then they referred me to another one. And then, you know, people started asking me how I did it, and you know, it really has been positive. There's been, at first, it was a little scary, and some people said no, and it just took me a bit to realize that when people are saying no, they're not saying no to me, they're saying no to the fee or working with me at that time. It's nothing personal, and they may come back later, and I just really wish them well. And what's really kind of funny is that for some people, when they waffle a little bit, I say to them, you know what? I understand. Excuse me. I understand my services are not for everybody. And then I kind of let it sit for just a second. And then I say, what I'll do is I'll type up everything we spoke about and shoot it out to you. Just by saying, I understand my services are not for everybody, it gives them the opportunity to say no thank you in a gracious way. But then I've also found, and that was the reason why I was doing it, because I didn't want people to be uncomfortable. I wanted to give them permission to say no to me. If it had to be a win-win for both of us, or it just wasn't going to work. So I gave them an out. I'm not for everybody. And what started happening was that there's a certain class of client that wants something exclusive. And when you say to them, I'm not for everybody, they're like, oh, but you're for me. That happened more than I expected as well. But again, if you're just confident and put it out there, and then let it go without expectation, and say, and you have to be authentic when you do it, because people can tell if you're desperate. They can smell it on you. But if you just put it out there and then you just say, I understand, I'm not for everybody, and just let it go. It'll be fine. You've always been fine. God is always taking care of you. It may not have been the way that you thought it should be, but here we all are. So that's my philosophy. I really do believe that the people that are supposed to work with me will, and there are some people that I don't want to work with, and there's some people that don't want to work with me, and that's okay. Not everybody's going to like me, and I don't like everybody, but I do wish everybody well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's something that you feel inside anyways, It goes both ways. If they don't want to work with you, sometimes you feel it too, and you go like, you know what, we're not the best fit for each other. And you'll start regretting it anyways from beginning to end. So, yeah.
That's right.
I think we're done. I don't think there are any more. Actually, yeah, Jenny says.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, who's on the line?
Okay, it's Tammy.
Hey, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi. I realize how much work it is on your part as well. So I guess I would like to have an idea from you for someone's first trip to Italy. Before we even get to you, what should we know, like a minimum amount of days and a minimum budget to have a nice, if they're not the extreme luxury clients, I would like to know a minimum before I bother you, because I know it's going to take a lot of your time.
Valentina, do you want to answer this?
Yes. It's a tough question because ultimately, even for a first-timer, it comes down to what the client wants and who the client is. Meaning, I think that for a general consensus, what we call the touristy area, the big cities, Rome, Florence, and Venice, they became touristy area for a good reason, because obviously, do I think that that would be probably a must see or do the first time you go to Italy? Probably. But again, it might, if somebody tells me I don't like crowds, I don't like big cities, I don't like traffic, probably those three choices would not be the best. I would say for me, I would encourage our agents in general to ask who the client is and what they are expecting in terms of a first experience in Italy. Because I might say the three classic are what I think everybody should see, but then the client might come back to be a completely different person that doesn't have really a good fit with those 3 must-do places. I would say, as far as a budget, that's another toughie because we can go all the way from, I want to say maybe $3,600 all the way to much bigger amounts. I
That
always
is per person without it.
I want to say per person for maybe like a 10-day trip. That being said, I think it's very limiting to just look at what a specific budget could be. And I encourage agents always to contact us anyway, even when you think, okay, no, See Italy, because you might have this image, See Italy only does, super exclusive luxury trips. Not necessarily true. We want to give them an experience, which is different than thinking we want a client that necessarily spends $15,000 per person. That's not our choice. But I do want to give clients more an experience. So if I have somebody that then starts to focus so much on the price tag and they're not looking at the bigger picture, that for me personally is the moment that I might say to you, Tammy, or any other agent, we're probably not the right fit. And it doesn't come necessarily to a budget issue. It comes to realistic expectations. Italy is not cheap. That's just the way it is. It's not even cheap for us when we travel back home. It's one of those places where you really get what you pay for, which means that if it's too good to be true, probably not true. So if there is an hotel that sells you a room and it pretends to be a quality of a 5-star, but the room is $150, I can guarantee you it's not.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a realistic expectations, but I really encourage our agents to present to us, and me personally as a sales agent, I'm going to be very honest, and I worked with Tammy before, so she knows me well. If it's something that is not realistic in terms of a price point or whatever that can be, I'm going to be the first person to say, this is not feasible, and these are the reasons why. Not necessarily because I expect every trip to be a luxury trip, but because I have to be realistic on what the expectations of the clients are and what the reality of the situation on land is. Is it feasible? And I got this request yesterday. I would love to help them. Is it feasible to go to Sardinia and a 5-star resort in September in Portocervo for couple of $1,000s a person? If it was realistic, I would be the first one to take that trip. I will be in Sardinia by September 2nd if Laura allows me to. I know that it's not a reality of the situation. That's just so. I really encourage to get as much information about who the client is and then still present us with their request. Okay. And say, okay, this is what I got. What do you think? What is your, opinion as an Italy expert? And I can guarantee you that I will tell you.
Yeah, maybe a good question to ask, Tammy, to your client is kind of like Trish was saying, what is the most important thing for you? Is it the sites? Is it the experience? Is it the budget? Is it whatever? If they tell you it's the budget, then I would go deeper and say, what do you really mean by budget? Are you really focused on staying within that amount of money? If they are that way, I would still give a call to Valentina or to whomever answers the phone. But the point is that, like she said, if they focus too much on the price, then they just want an item. They don't care about the experience, which means if it's an item, they're probably the people that need to be charged a service fee, and they're probably going to compare you to other online sites. So if they accept a service fee, that's a plus. If they compare you with other sites, then ask Valentina to put unusual stuff so they will never be able to compare you with anybody else. Right. So there is room to work with, and we're around for that purpose to help you, not just to make the sale.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love this course, by the way. I love the Facebook. Trish, thanks for the reminder on the service fees. And Valentina, thank you always. So thanks so much. Love it. I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. You're so nice. Thank you so much. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any more questions. We'll love to be here. If you do, that's not a problem of time, but we know that you probably need to get to something. So if I don't see anything typed in or anybody speaking, I'll probably say goodbye and thank you to all of the panelists
Thank you.
for the
Thank you, Grace.
time and really bless me and bless everybody on the line. So thank you again.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Till
Ciao.
next time. Soon.
Ciao.
Okay. Thank you.